Welcome to In Depth and Out Loud. This is the perfect space where we bridge the world you're in as a student through your academic journey with what awaits as you step out of campus, as you step out of your academic career and into the world of work. Now, my guest today has extensive experience in brand strategy, digital brand strategy, working with a number of brands across the spectrum, from FMCGs, telcos, you name it. Her name is Cherylann Sawyer, Managing Partner Digital at Ogilvy, South Africa. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Mo. Great to be here with everybody.
Absolutely. A digital brand strategy. What on earth is that?
So I suppose many of the students might know what normal brand strategy is, but it really is quite simple. You're taking data and analytics and understanding how to build this brand strategy. So digital is about everything on screen. Some people like to talk about online and offline, but if you think about it these days, the way that we're consuming media, it's on screen. So if it's on screen, it's digital, and that's where we start the heart of the brand strategy.
So why is that so important for a business's brand strategy, to have a plan digitally?
Well, we know that most of the time when you have your first touch point with a brand, whether you're discovering a brand, looking for a brand, or even just looking for information for yourself, right? Whether you're with your friends on social, that is the first touch point. If it's not the first touch point and you happen to see a billboard or TV, or you heard a great radio ad or had a conversation with someone about a brand, you're going to go search for more, especially if it's something that interests you.
Sure.
So having that brand strategy from a digital perspective is really important. And you want to have a look at it across the ecosystem of digital. The other real magic part to a brilliant brand strategy is it's not a plugin. So when the brand manager starts the traditional brand strategy, you want to be in there having the conversation from the get-go, because then you've got a holistic strategy, and that's going to be really strong for your client or for the brand that you're working on.
I'm glad you brought that up, Cherylann, because it's important to put it into perspective as to where a digital brand strategy fits in, especially in marketing and advertising. So then how does it all come together? What informs a strategy?
I think, like when I have a look at my client strategies, I'll start with their digital roadmap or their marketing roadmap. What do they want to achieve? And one of the most pertinent things to do is to link it back to their business goal, just like any other strategy. You want to understand their business goal, where you can make an impact to their business. Because if you're just doing stuff in the digital space, whether it's a website or a TikTok, and it's just for the vanity metrics, you're not really making an impact, right?
Right.
So you want to understand what is important to them. You want to make sure that you understand who their target market is. And we know this, right? Like in South Africa, our target market is no longer demographics, it's psychographics. It's how people think, how they behave. So you're taking all of those things into consideration to build this ecosystem for them, that no matter which touch point someone's going to land on, they're getting a similar story. And then part of that consideration to bring it all together is not to replicate or duplicate content. So you really want to be careful and thoughtful about what content, what message, what story you're telling at that different touch point or platform. And then you bring all of that together and you've got some beautiful, coherent story that you're telling. And that's how you land a really great brand strategy.
Sure. And you've maybe in your experience have found that a digital brand strategist, and even the conversation of a strategy, has become more and more important in putting any strategy together. What has that journey been like over the years?
Well, for me, I started out my career in meetings, making notes about everything that I didn't understand, right, in conversation. So becoming a really great brand strategist isn't something that just happens as soon as you step outside of the classroom.
Right.
Okay. So a couple of things that worked for me, and I see this at Ogilvy Digital with the newbies that have come in as well, right, is you building relationships, you're getting to know people, you having a look and you're exploring out there what brands are doing and what you would do different. And that's that special nugget that you have, that you bring to the party. And you kind of carve your way through, or I carved my way through by making notes of all the things I didn't understand and then going to Google them. Now students of course have like a Udemy, a Coursera, Facebook and Google have their own free courses, even LinkedIn. So even today, after being in the industry for 15 years, I'm still in meetings making notes of ChatGPT and what's happening and how can I use this. And so just that constant learning is really important as a brand strategist. And then to own something, own a space. Think about what is it that you want to be known for, and what is it, that thing, that little fire that drives you, that gets you passionate, that gets you up in the morning to come to class, is probably going to be the same thing that gets you up in the morning in the workplace. And really important to stay true to who you are and to bring that to life. And that's what makes a brand strategist different. That's that little essence that you bring to the team.
Earlier, you spoke about the traditional, ways of communicating, above the line, etc., radio, television. With a digital strategy, how different is it when you consider the different types of platforms that exist online? Is there a consideration, or is it, well, if it works on X, it's definitely going to work on Facebook? It will probably work on that digital screen somewhere as well, whatever the story may be.
That's a good question. I think that there's probably two parts to that. Firstly, you want to work with the creative team very closely and start guiding them and molding the thinking for different screen sizes, because what works on TV or a billboard or on radio can translate into the digital space. But a beautiful billboard on a small mobile banner, you lose that, right? So you want to be guiding and working very closely with that strategist to make sure that from a creative perspective, your key visual and those assets can roll across. Then you also want to have a look at each platform specifically, because you can't just take what works on Facebook and pop it onto Instagram. You have to think of that audience and what they want in that moment.
Sure.
And so you're creating fit for platform creatives and stories. TikTok is a discovery platform. It's not just another social media platform, and you can look at that like for like with TV. And holistically, you're looking at all of those things together, but from a digital perspective, you are going to be held accountable for results. Why? Because we can measure it.
Yeah, and let's get into that before my other point. How do you measure the success of a digital brand strategy? Is it the likes? Is it the shares? What metrics do you guys use?
So a number of our clients at Ogilvy Digital really focus on their business impact, right? So a number of clients come to us and they are looking for the vanity metrics. And by vanity metrics, it's likes and shares and comments. You could classify that as engagement, but really that's not what it is. You want to have a look at all the data and analytics that you have available. So from the client side, maybe they've got CRM, maybe they've got their website analytics set up. If not, you need to correct that for them. And you really want to take as much of that data and understand it so that it builds a story and tells you of a snapshot of where the client is. For some brands like a Cadbury, for example, there's taste credentials that come in when you're eating a chocolate. How do we translate? How do we test that in a digital environment? Is it about having an A/B test on a campaign on creative that talks to that? And there you're working very closely with the copywriters, because that's what you want to bring out.
Sure.
For another client, it could be about sales. So how are you going to measure it back to that? So depending on who your client is and depending on which category they're in, you want to unpack as the strategist. You want to really withdraw out of them what is that unique selling point, what is it that they are going to be measured on, and then how can you bring digital in to talk to that. And then of course you need to work with the offline or above the line team to see how what they're doing is impacting. Radio, right? So you're on a show, you're talking, and it's drive time. By the time someone gets in the office or to a red light or no light, if there's load shedding, they're going to be searching. Where are they searching? They're searching on their phones.
Sure.
If you don't have a mobile search strategy at the same time that you've got a really nice spot or whatever it is that you've booked on radio, you're missing a beat. So you've got to keep thinking of everything in parallel rather than digital on its own.
Yeah.
And like I say, there's that whole ecosystem.
It almost sounds like the connectivity of everything, the interconnectedness with everything else.
Yes.
That speaks to a strategy. Let's talk about identity. For a business, an organization, even an individual, when you talk about a digital brand strategy, can you have your own unique identity? Because sometimes you go online and you see something on Facebook or X, for instance, by a particular brand, and instantly, without even seeing the logo, you already know who crafted that message. So
Yes.
talk to me a bit about that.
Well, I think the beauty of digital is now that you have a visual identity. And that can be something as simple as a font. We've seen that with the Nando's, right? You just see the font, you know it's them.
Yeah.
So in the sea of sameness that we're seeing of brands trying to be like everybody else, you get lost. Also, in a space where it's Valentine's Day, you know, or it's another day, like a Freedom Day, like everybody wants to jump on that bandwagon and everybody's giving their message and you kind of get lost in that conversation. So brand identity in the digital space is probably more important than ever in this day and age. So having a look at how that brand shows up at the right time, and you need to have that unique selling point or that identifier that's going to make you stand out, memorable. Right? We're consuming how many videos a day? I don't know if you've looked at your TikTok or your Facebook to see how much time your phone tells you now, how long you've been there.
Yeah.
So how is a brand going to get you? Think about that as a student, right? How is a brand going to capture your mental availability space when you're looking for things? And if even your favorite brand, when last have you been onto their TikTok, onto their Facebook, onto their website? You don't go looking for it. You wait for them to come to you. And in that split second, those 3 seconds before you flip to the next thing, what's going to capture you? That's something you can consider to bring into your strategies.
Yeah, and I suppose the other talking point is reputation, because that goes a lot with identity and how a good or bad digital brand strategy can impact, you know, a business's reputation.
Yeah, so I think what's really important, and it's something that you could probably even do now for your own favorite brand, just as an exercise, is you could map out conversations that is already happening in the digital space, and you put them onto a grid, an Excel, good old spreadsheet, and you can have a look at the good, the bad, the ugly, and how you would respond and copyright. Even if you're not doing copywriting, just like write a couple of responses and start getting into that brand mindset and formulate your responses. I'm sure everybody has seen a brand that has gone terribly in terms of a PR piece, and you go on to any of their socials and it's, we've heard your comment, thank you, we'll come back to you, we've heard your comment, and that repetition, and you can use that space to completely shift your audience, right? So reputation is important from a brand perspective, to make sure that you've planned properly, to make sure that your strategy is embedded into the overall thinking. And from a digital perspective, I mean, can we say Black Twitter, you know, or X, right? We know you'll get cancelled in a moment. If you have a look at anything that happens online, from a reputation perspective, if you're working in the workspace, have a look at how many comments have been put out there that's negative. Is it one person? Evaluate, has that person got 10,000 followers or 10 followers? But treat every single criticism as important, right? And then you'll evaluate. But that reputation strategy you need to have before a brand even goes online.
And then I suppose attached to the strategy and the reputation and the identity are what we call influencers.
Yes.
And some people call it influencer marketing, etc. What is your take on where that space is? And is that also a strategy? Is it long-term? Is it short-term? What is the impact of these social media influencers in any digital brand strategy?
So, I mean, at Ogilvy, we have a PR division that actually sources and has a look at managing that part of reputation. It definitely sits within reputation. You get micro influencers, you get macro influencers, and then you get, you know, famous people. So in that space, you want to make sure from a client perspective that you are utilizing their budget effectively and responsibly. And that is how you can strategically look at, how do I choose from all of these people, a handful of people? So for Easter, for example, with Cadbury, we would have a look at getting and seeding with some micro influencers and getting people to talk about it authentically. Our brief to those influencers never tell about these taste credentials or talk to how lovely this is. It is really about having the influencer be influential to their following. And of course the benefit is that they have a following. So and treating them as people with respect, and not just giving them freebies, right? Because they are and can be a very integral part of your entire digital strategy. They're seeding the content.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the numbers game. I mean, does it matter how many followers an influencer has, or is it about the impact they have in a particular space, regardless of whatever followers in numbers they've got?
Let's think about it like radio. Did you ever go on a show and think, I don't know how many listeners are out there. I don't know if I'm going to do this session today. No, probably not. I mean, maybe. Was it in the back of your mind?
It's always in the back of your mind, but then the numbers always, are there ticking away.
Yes.
Because you might have seen that, it's 1 million listeners. So in my mind, I've probably got 1 million people waiting to hear what I've got to say.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so whether you had 300 people or 1 million, you're going to give it your best show.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's the principle.
And that's the principle.
Yeah.
That is it. You always want to have a look at the numbers that an influencer has as one part. What impact are they making? Because if they have 300 followers, 3,000 followers, okay, it doesn't have to be 3 million. If they have real influence with a niche group of people, you're going to get your strategic rollout perfectly. So focus on the right things when you're looking at numbers and always give that best. That's what I would say.
The other thing is, authenticity with any digital brand strategy. I mean, is there any way of being absolutely certain that what you're putting out is going to land correctly?
There's no guarantees in digital, right? And again, like we've seen many examples, take things like a Women's Day. We've had brands in the past that have gone out there that I've seen that have tried to say like, work like a man, act like a woman, like those kind of very strange, culturally irrelevant stuff that's very relevant for us. So if you want to be relevant and if you're going to make an impact, as South Africans, you have to have more people in the room than you. So in my team, I will have sometimes someone from finance sitting in my strategy, someone from outside of my team, different people from different walks of life, so that we are considering all types of lifestyles, all kinds of sensitivities, all kinds of diversity, so that that message lands relevantly, but you're never going to get it 100% right. And I think that if you aren't thinking about what can go wrong, that's already means that something can go wrong. If one of the things that's difficult as a strategist, and you'll find this, is that your client wants to be everywhere. And a great strategist has to have hard conversations with clients. World Cup, soccer, everyone wants to jump in there. And it's about saying, unless you're selling something relevant or talking or have a partnership that's relevant to that moment, don't play in that space. Stay true to who you are as a brand. And those are tough conversations.
I can imagine, because that speaks to how you manage that relationship from an agency point of view with the clients that you work with, who are sometimes multinationals. They operate in different parts of the world.
Yes, and students will find as you start shifting into the agency space or even the corporate space, you get this global governance, right? And part of what I've done is to go back and say, we don't have the same mobile market because our market is sensitive to data, or this idea is great, but it's not going to work, or it can work like this. And so having your finger on the pulse and pushing back at the right time is going to separate you from being average to being outstanding. And the client really values that. And so stretch those muscles, because that's going to be really important for you. And that's a really good skill to have, is to take what global has given you and localize it, make it Mzansi or make it whatever it is that's going to then land. And then the people that you're trying to reach aren't going to feel like they're being sold to. They're going to feel like they're part of a story. And digital is about that brand storytelling.
You've been in the industry for many years, almost 20. You're working at a massive company, Ogilvy, South Africa. Some digital strategies that come to mind for you, brand strategies that you've worked on that really sort of make your heart sing? What comes to mind?
So We're currently working with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and this is a bit of a pre-conversation. We're working on an incredible campaign around HIV, and the beauty of this is that we've been given the carte blanche to really localize it and talk to people on the ground that are really needing this message to come through. So that's something that we're currently building. Keep an eye out for it, or have a look for when it is live. You'll see that the technology that we're using, a WhatsApp chatbot, because again, this market is not necessarily in the TikTok space all the time, right? Yeah. So that's a beautiful one. Also because it will be seen everywhere. So me as a digital strategist, I often get caught in digital only projects. Some work comes into us, it's only digital, some is out there, but it is a full campaign. And that's nice because I'm stretching my muscles in other directions. Sure. Other campaigns that I think have done really well is just small things that make a difference. So have a look at some of the stuff we've done on VW and Audi. There, we're creating experiences for people that come into Audi that can do a test drive in a different way by just creating something simple like a beautiful lead generation form that translates back to the clients, to their business goals, but also giving the customer a real experience. So you can go race around the track, or with VW, you can do night school online and you can learn how to drive. So it's, there's some fun, heartfelt things, but sure. Also just like the light stuff is really great. And whenever you see your work out there, always give your best in the moment, in those like 2 o'clock in the morning, those crazy hours, or 2 hours before something goes live, like always give your best, because when you see it out there, there's that sense of pride,
For students who are watching this now, what would you say they need to get into the space? Whether it's academic, whether it's anything else for that matter.
So remember when Mac G phoned you or sent you a message, right? Let's take it there.
Yeah.
I really like that because I kind of like related to that, okay? Like wherever you are now, wherever you're starting out, no matter where you've come from to get you to where you are, leave all of that behind you. Because how did he get to you? You messaged and you messaged him and commented when he moved to Kaya, right?
Yes.
And say like, well done, or whatever it is.
With Sol Penduga, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And so what can students take from that? Reach out, right? Reach out in digital, comment, follow the right people, follow where you want to go, and create those little pockets of magic for yourself. Manage your own reputation, please. Manage your own reputation. Everything that you put out there, whether it's a piece of work, something that you're submitting today that's going to go for an exam, or anything that you're putting out on socials, think ahead in 10 years' time. And we were chatting about this earlier, right? Like where you are today is not going to be who you are in 5 years or 10 years' time. Connect with the right people and always put your best foot forward. Don't be afraid to learn. When you go from now until the end of the year, okay, there's time for you to maybe sign up for some of the courses that are out there that are still free. You can do some additional stuff. We've got our grad program at Ogilvy that opens up in August. There's those kind of things that students can work towards if you're not going to necessarily go straight into a job. Have a look at your LinkedIn, like be practical like that about how you're taking yourself into the world, and never ever compromise who you are for what somebody needs. But always be aware of your communication. I have beautiful relationships with my clients, and I'll say like, hi, my doll, how are you? And she'll hug me and squeeze me, my love, it's good to see you. But when I'm emailing her, it's dear client name, because I don't know who she's forwarding that onto or who's going to be roped into a thread. So she'll never get a fry yay from me on an email, but if we're chatting, she will. So just those kind of little nuggets are really important. That's what I would say.
Cherylann, thank you so much for coming in and imparting such vital knowledge and insight, and just your experience of being in the industry, this fabulous growing world of digital brand strategy, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Mo. It's really been great.
Absolutely. And there you have it. in depth and out loud. As always, we are creating that bridge. We're trying to make sure that you see the link, you see the realities of what you're learning about and what you're studying and how all of that works in the real world.